let me thank you all for being here. So we're going to reconvene, and if you would call the roll, let's make sure we're all here.
Okay.
I can count, but
Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Drum?
here.
Mr. Spangler present.
And let's show that our attorney is present with us.
Mr. McClellan is in the house.
Okay, now, we were in the middle of something when a gas leak occurred.
Yeah, at the last meeting, we had heard testimony from both Christopher Bilbrey and Mr. BOOKOUT.
Yes.
I believe we were at the point where we were ready to propose a motion on that, since we had heard testimony from both of them. Yes.
Sir, generally in the past, you guys have had the challenger, and then you let the candidate speak, and then you give them rebuttal.
I don't.
I'm not recall that at all.
You guys have done that since at least 2019.
I don't see a problem. Mr. Bilbrey, would you like to? But
I presume that's why Mr. Bilber brought that up.
Fine with that.
please take a seat. You are under oath.
I re-swear if you need me to. Okay, since we left last, I was reminded that I want to make it clear for the record. I think that I agree with everyone here at the table that the notary can be fixed. I don't think that there's a question. I did not know that at the time that I filed the challenge. In preparing for this hearing, I did find that. That's why I knew that when Mr. McClellan brought that to the attention of the board. However, there was a little bit of disagreement on if it needed to be fixed or what happened there. And I recalled a conversation that I had with Mr. Spangler on the 12th. And that was, I called and asked Mr. Spangler on Monday morning if there could be any amendments or anything added to the paperwork. And he stated to me on the 12th that there was nothing that could be added to the paperwork. I'm in an agreement. If we were talking about buying a house or buying a car or power of attorney paperwork, and that you get a notary and the notary messes up there, that the notary can re-sign that and fix that. However, the issue is we are dealing with a deadline. The deadline is the issue. Okay. The problem here is the paperwork was turned in and needed to be turned in at or before noon on February 9th. And had this paperwork been corrected before the 12th hour noon on the 9th, then that would have been perfectly fine. However, the fact that that did not happen, and it appeared from what I heard in testimony that it happened on the 16th, I think that's the problem. The problem here is not whether it can be fixed. It's a matter of when it was fixed. And to make sure, after we left here, last Friday, I sent an email to Valerie Warchaw and Matthew Kochever at the Indiana Secretary of State's office. And I asked them about this issue, and both of them responded. And one of them, Matt Kochever, said, once the deadline to file a candidate form passes, it is not possible for the county clerk to accept any amendments or additions to the candidate filing. This is because Indiana Code 354-1.9, which prohibits a county clerk from accepting a filing that is offered after the deadline. Valerie Warchaw stated, you can't amend the candidacy document after the deadline to file. The deadline this year was February 9th at noon. I can present that to you all if you want to see that, but that's their email back to me. And so it's not an issue of whether this can be fixed or not. It's a matter of when it can be fixed.
Okay. That's your.
Yes.
And what I'll rebut that with is we didn't need a change. You know, when we go back to IC 334216-1-A, the failure of a notarial officer to perform a duty to meet a requirement specified in this order does not, it does not need to be there. It doesn't, the act wasn't wrong. I'm trying to get it. There was a mistake made. The act wasn't wrong, and we don't need a correction. That's what that law says. Now, I would agree with you 100%. If he came in here and said, "Oh, I want to put this down here now," we can't take it. We had that same thing, if you remember, with the Munson file.
Yep.
You had the law the last time, but you ran out of time.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not asking, or I don't see Brad asking for a change here. So we'll leave that to the board, of course, to decide.
So what about in the 334216.1 where it says the presumed validity of the notarial act under this section does not prevent the injured party from seeking invalidation of a record or transaction reliant upon the incomplete notarial act?
I
So-
guess, it's up to you then to challenge it if you want to challenge our decision on that, if that's the decision we make. Do either of you gentlemen have any questions?
I have questions.
I don't
have questions, no.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to make a motion that we deny Mr. Bilbrey's challenge of Bradley Bookout.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Hunter?
Well, I went back and reviewed that statute myself. I just want to explain myself a little bit, speak up a little bit so I'm clear. I agree that really what this is a challenge to the notary. And 334216.1 does say that it's presumptively valid. But it also says that under this section does not prevent an injured party from seeking invalidation of the record. And I'm not sure I'm not sure that the status, or I do not think the status that required that makes you a party to challenge the filing, that in and of itself doesn't make you an injured party. You have to be directly injured. That's the way I read it. So I guess, can you read back the motion?
Yeah, the motion is to deny the challenge filed by,
Then on that basis, I will vote to deny.
yes. Mr. Spangler, yes. And Mr. Trump,
Yes.
challenge denied. Mr. Bilbrey, since you're there,
Sure.
you want to go with the next one?
Yes. Yeah. Just real briefly, I am happy with the board's decision. I'm just glad we're able to set a baseline standard of what goes on from there forward. Okay, in the next challenge, let's see here. I challenged the candidate simply for the fact that after the deadline on the 9th, upon picking up the paperwork, it was clear that the CAN 2, nor the CAN 12, but the CAN 2 mostly is the issue here, was not date and or time stamped, which the law states that it has to be date and time stamped, that it has to be received by the deadline at noon on the 9th, and that is the only way that citizens can ensure that the process is being secure for everyone, and that everyone has the same time, and that no one is outside of that time. IC 352-24.5 says filing means the following. 1, for purposes of filing electronic report under Indiana Code 3944, 3957, when the requirements of IC Code 3944 or 3957 have been met. For all other purposes, which I would assume that this is the other purpose since it was not electronic filed, when all of the following have occurred: the presentation of a document to an individual required to receive the document under this title, which would be the clerk or his staff, the receipt of the document by the individual, and the recording of the date and time the document was received by the individual. And as you guys can see on the CAN 2, and the can 12. There are no date and timestamps anywhere on the paperwork. And that's the only candidate that I saw out of the documents that I was received that did not have a date and timestamp. So that's the reason for the challenge there.
So as I read the law, first of all, I accepted that file.
Okay.
And I did not take timestamp it. But as I read 3-5-2-24.5, it does not say that the can 2 or the can 12 has to be date and timestamp. It says there needs to be a record. And I submit to you that I have the can 5 that we do after every candidate enters their paperwork. I have a date and timestamp from the SVRS system. And every night I run a list of candidates that also has the time that everybody was listed. That is all public record.
Okay.
So I submit that we do have that.
And may I ask what the dates were on those?
Sure.
On that?
Sherry filed the paperwork, and I was also notarized that same day too.
Okay.
And Anderson had a question like this, and they actually went by the notary date. But she filed on February 7th, entered in SVRS on February 7th, and at 5:01 p.m. on February 7th, before I go home every night, I run to make sure the candidates were in and that can 5s were mailed.
Very good. Well, then with that, with can 5, instead of you guys voting, can I withdraw my challenge on Ms. Riggin?
It has to be brought before the board, but I have no objection to that.
I make a motion to allow us to withdraw.
I will second that motion.
That's fine. Let's take a vote on that.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Spangler, yes. Mr. Drum?
Yes.
So
Very
your
good.
challenge was withdrawn.
Okay, thank you.
Pete, if you'll allow me,
Yes.
I have one other thing that I want to bring in front of the board today. We have a great program in Indiana called Hoosier Hall Pass. And this program allows us to use high school juniors and seniors to work in our polling stations to help us as we struggle to get plenty of workers for that. But there is one requirement, and with each election, the election board has to vote unanimously to use this program. So what I'm asking the two of you to do is support me in using this program for the upcoming primary election. We work with all the schools. We work with our guidance counselors and our government teachers, and they are the ones who nominate the students that we use.
Well, I think it's probably good for experience for them too, to get them exposed to the process.
I very much believe if we get them involved in it early, they're going to participate in it in the years to come. So,
Well, and so I absolutely agree. And as a matter of fact, Joe, the first year that I served on this board, I had the privilege and pleasure of working with your children. And it was very enlightening how attentive they were and how beneficial they were to making this stuff run smoothly. So I agree too.
Well said. Thanks for the compliment.
Joe, you want to put that form of motion for me?
Yes, please. Yeah, I would do so.
I will second that motion.
Okay, let's have a vote.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Spangler, yes. Mr. Drum?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
That concludes
Okay.
our business.
I believe it does. And is there a motion for us to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for attending, and thank you for putting up with the gas.
No entertainment this time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all of my friends and loved ones who have been wishing me well throughout this process. Today, I got to be honest, it felt a little dicey in there. I was happy to have some friends that came for support. One of the people said they came just to give me some backup because they didn't appreciate how I was attacked last time, and I appreciate that. And so I'm very fortunate to have you wonderful people out there. Tune in tonight at 9 p.m. as we will go through this and everything else that happens. See you guys tonight at 9. Goodbye!